Okay. Well, I think I'm going to start. And yeah, it's 8 o'clock. And hello and welcome back. So this is algolab number 2. And a couple of things before we start. I'm part of the Live Coders Collective Copenhagen, and we have decided to host an algolab during this week. So we're gonna have streamings every day, Monday to Friday. This is the second one at 8 p.m. and we'll try to get something done, ideally in a meaningful way. And this is the second streaming that I have been doing this week. So my idea was to elaborate on what we have built yesterday and to free. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do because I don't know what I want to do. But here are some constraints. So I'm going to take some rhythmic sequences from yesterday and we will try to find a way to make them more interesting without using any higher order function. So what is a higher order function? Basically, it's a function that takes another function. This is really, really nice when you want to apply, say, effects in specific, in, I don't know, specific amount of time. So if you say, they just give you way more, they just give you a lot of power because you can basically schedule things for the future to be repeated in the future. I'm making it very, very, very simple here, but I just want to stick to something which is really basic. So I'm forced to really think about what I want to do. And this is what, yeah, this is what the challenge that I'm gonna put as a constraint. This is what is all about tonight. I will try to read your comments. If you write something here into the chat every 2 or 3 minutes, I will try to remember as much as I can. I hope you hear me well, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it any better in terms of video resolution. I still suck at these things, and apparently there was something that I had to change in OBS before applying video output, something like that. So hopefully, and luckily for you, I won't be streaming tomorrow. There will be another fellow from the Live Coders who is going to introduce you to the magic word of visuals, Sir Peter. So I hope I can figure out in a couple of days how to make the video resolution a bit better. But what's really important is that you try to follow me and you listen to what I'm trying to do and you interact with me. If you have anything that you want to know, if you have anything you want to listen, because again, as I told you, I don't know what I'm going to do. So we can just build things together. So let's go back to what we did yesterday. And let's check first of all if I can hear something. We evaluate. and I can definitely see things. And I hope you can hear the same as I do. And we introduce something more. So this is what we were doing yesterday. Yesterday I have to be, well, I had to say yesterday I liked it more, and today I like it a bit less. But we just take it for granted. We take it as I liked it, as as the best thing in the world. So we just take this, and I think I remember I said something yesterday, such as this is a really powerful tool to make things, but we can also make it in a more concise way, or in an easy way, so to speak. And I'll just try to explain what I want, what I was meaning. So, for instance, we have a pattern here, and this pattern is made of 4 steps. This is step number 1, this is step number 2, this is step number 3, and this is step number 4. And we repeat a lot this 808 BT, and because we want the first sound. And every time we want the sample to play, we have to write it. So there's a better way to phrase it, and the better way is to split between the sample as a sound, the sample as a sound, and the rhythmic sequence as rhythm. So we take our groove and we split it into 2 parts, one concerning the sound only and one concerning the rhythm only, so that we can work them independently. And how to do this? So we can use something called struct. Struct basically is a function that applies a pattern of rhythms to another pattern. So, for instance, if I want to write the same pattern as this right now, first of all, I can make the 4 steps. I have to be honest, I don't remember if this works like this or not, but we can check it. And then we say that in the first step we want to have something playing and something not. In the second step we have something not playing, and then of course in the second half we have something not playing and something playing. In the third step we have something playing in the first half and something not playing in the second half. In the last step we have 4 sub beats, if we can put it this way. The first and the last, they don't play, and the 2 in between, they play. And because this is a pattern, I assume the mini notation works also this way. And then the only thing we have to do is just replace this thing over here, and we just want to use this sample, and we basically take the pattern which is made of this sample only, and we're going to impose we're just going to put this structure on top. And I don't know if it works, so let's see. And it seems like that I was lucky enough. And of course, if you want something particular, or if you have anything you think it's interesting to try out, you just write me, and we'll see what we can do. So we definitely found a nicer way to talk about a pattern, especially such a structured pattern like this one. It's just not it's just not the canonical 4/4. One more thing that we can do here is that, if you remember, for instance, in my track number 3, if we think back, if we go back to the analogy of a mixer, of a console, on track number 3, I defined that I want to use one sample from this folder. In this case, it's omitted. I just want to use the first sample from this folder, and I want to use the 5th sample from this folder. Of course, I mean, this comes at convenience, because you can define the index of the sample right inside the pattern, of course, by means of the mini notation. But we might not be completely sure about what kind of sample we want to use, or we might also just want to choose a random sample. So we just say, just here's the box, just pick something at random, because I don't really care about the different nuances. I just want this sort of sound. So I just say, please, given this folder, just give me the sample number what? And here's the point. It should be a number, and ideally it should be a number which is between 0 and the number of the samples into this folder. If we go and check how many was the folder here, we've got 25. Not bad. So ideally, I can have a number from 0 to 24. And let's try also this out. If I say just one, so if I don't say anything, this is just going to be this. One sample, in this case, sample number 0. If I say I want sample number 1, we get back the sample that we were listening to just until 5 minutes ago. If I change it, you can see that there's a difference. The difference is quite subtle, but there is a difference in the tone. And I sort of like all of them, so I want to just get a random number. And I want this number because I have to pick samples given an index, and an index can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to, in this case, 25. I have to be careful in what I choose, because if I choose, say, note of 5, this is not going to work. I'm just gonna speed up a little bit. Suffice to know that I'm going to use another function, which is going to give me a random integer, that's why I ran, between 0 and the number that I define, which is 25, exactly the same as the number of samples, minus 1, because Yeah, because programming people are geeky, so they like to start counting from 0. But if I do this, then you will be listening to a lot of different nuances of the same bass drum. And as you can see, as we move along through the sequence, through the pattern, there are very, very light changes, but it keeps changing. And this is what I wanted. I also get it a bit more. And this is really interesting. I can also say, for instance, I was having a problem here, how to make the snare interesting. And I can say maybe I want some glitch, which is basically which does get triggered every time I don't have a sound coming from here. So let's try to make it. So I basically think about filling the empty spaces so that I have things coming from one end and things coming from the other end, and then at some point I will think about how to make the situation a bit more lively in terms of I really want to hear some silence every now and then, so how to remove things. But first we build up and then we scale down. And I'm gonna take this, which is my structure, and I'm going to say, okay, good, let's take it back, and I'm going to do something that is not really important, but I'm just going to do it. And I say our pattern, this is a really stupid name, so our alva noto pattern is equal to this thing. And I have to do this because I have to, and maybe in another life we can talk about why I'm doing this, but not today. And now basically I'm going to use what I just defined here. So I just defined something called a variable, which is basically something like, I don't know, say I just wrote down my rhythm somewhere else, and then every time I need this rhythm, I'm just going to copy it. Okay, and let's see if it works. We still have it. This is really nice. Now we have two of them. We have this and this triggered at the same time. But here comes the interesting thing. If I apply the same structure, they will play at the same time. But I actually want them to play at different times. So I'm gonna say I want to define this. I just want to basically replace every 1 with a 0 and every 0 with a 1. And I'm going to say that this is going to be an inverse of my rhythm. And this is not gonna work, of course. why this? So let's try to understand why if I say fx 1 minus 6 doesn't from anyone can help me? I don't remember why this and the from the yes, of course. Problem is that if we do this, we don't get, we probably don't get a boolean out of it. So let's see if we can do it another way. So perhaps I just want to do the inverse here, and of course this is not gonna work because I have to apply it to everything. But still this doesn't work. And I'm really sad because I thought that I could do the trick, but apparently I don't remember how to do the trick. And this is really sad. So let's try to understand. So if I want the inverse something, I want the inverse of this structure, but I don't know for what kind of reason I'm not able to flip it. And why am I not able to flip it? Because if this is going to be 1, then we have 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0. That's interesting. And perhaps someone can help me. Let's see, we'll come back to this later. I think we can definitely come back to this later. So I can do how to do it. I can do something slightly different in the meantime, and I can say, instead of reading from left to right the structure, I can read it from right to left using reverse. And this way, maybe it's even a little bit better, because then with the solution that we had before, basically the glitch pattern was playing only when the 808 pattern was not playing, whereas here actually I think probably things are overlapping, so maybe it's even a bit more interesting. If this sounds interesting. And let's say, how can we make it a bit more interesting? Let's talk about these sounds. Okay, so let's say that I don't like these hi-hats because there are too many, but I like their structures, so I like the pattern that I have built, but I sort of don't like that there are too many events in one cycle. So one thing that I can do is something that comes all the way back from counterpoint, which is I can just slow the pattern down, and basically that means that I given a unit, given that my pattern is long 1, I can decide to multiply everything, every duration of my pattern by a number, and this number will basically tell me how long the pattern is going to be. So you think of this number as a ratio, as a factor that is going to make the pattern either longer or it's going to shrink it. So let's say I want to give a try. If you hear strange sounds, that's just my dog, so to say. So don't get scared, but she likes to play. So let's say I like this. Let's say that I like this. Although still a bit too much, but then we'll see how to degrade the frequency of the events. Now what we want to do is to introduce this, but again a bit too much. Nah? So let's slow it down. Let's make it double as long. I would say this is definitely nicer. Also, I think we should put some little reverb. But I also want to keep the reverb just for this very hi-hat sound. This way we slowed it down a little bit, and let's say I also want to take the whole pattern. I want to slow it down, and then I just want to play a particular portion, which is the portion that goes, let's say, that goes from step number 2 to step number 3. So I just have 4 steps in this case, and I want to remove 2 of them, and I just want to play exactly the portions in between. So what I will do, I don't remember if I should use, I don't remember what function I should use. So we'll go and we check. We go to the Holy Grail and we check. So as far as I remember, I don't remember if we want something. What do we want? I remember something about zoom, but as far as I know, zoom maps a portion of the pattern to the entire pattern, exactly. But what I want to do is to just play a particular part, which is, say, between, in this case, 25 and 75, but I don't want to stretch it over the full length. So I'm gonna do something different, which is I'll try to go here and check inside this packet if my connection allows, and I think it's not here. I think it's here. That be? Yes. So the pattern B into the first half, second half will be empty. So maybe the thing is that I want to try to compress it. Let's see. Maybe this is not why. Maybe this is not what is going to happen. But this is not what I wanted to do. But let's see, I'm interested. So this is our sample. This is our pattern. And I want to compress it between the second and the third step. So as we go back, this takes a tuple and of course the pattern. So I want to squeeze to compress it between the second and the third and takes this pattern. That's interesting because it's it basically gets some sort of swing fare because I don't know, but it's interesting. Let's see what happens when you put it back. And I would say that sounds quite interesting. Sounds quite interesting. And I need to take this a little bit down because it's drilling my brain. Maybe too much. Oh, that's really nice. And also this sounds a bit too much. So let's say that I want to remove 40% of the events. Or was it the other way around? So do I want to remove 40% or do I want to leave 40%? So let's go and check. I want to remove events 90% of the time. So okay. So in this case I'm removing 40% of the events, or I'm removing events 40% of the time. And it sounds a bit better, a bit more sparse, even more. And I would say that now the pattern is way more balanced when it comes to alternating sound and silence. I really love to work with silence, and this is something that I tend to notice quite often, especially when we listen to electronic music productions or you name it. There's always a lot of things going on. There's always a whole texture, and there's really few space for the silence. So I just really love it. I can't say why. Let's see, someone wrote me, no one wrote me, so I'll keep going. And this looks nice. I would say I really don't have anything about, I don't really have anything more about the hi-hat. What can we do to this hi-hat? Without using functions that take functions, what can we use? What can we do? Unfortunately, no one is saying or suggesting anything. So I think I'm just gonna do something to the sample itself. For instance, something that I don't like particularly, I don't like that everything, it's really straight onto, it's really straight in a way that it falls all the time just right onto the metrical grid. So I just want to introduce some noise, some rhythmic noise. And for instance, I can just think of taking this pattern over here and shift it. Shift it by a super small amount, which could be, for instance, 1/16 of my cycle, and I'll move it backwards. Of course, I mean, you didn't hear anything particular because it doesn't play that much, but we can do the same trick. We can do the same trick with the glitch, and we can put it really in a, let's say, we shift it by 1/4 and we move it forward. And as you can see, it changed its interaction with the other pattern. And at the same time, I can just go to my hi-hat and say, please play the samples backwards. But not all the time. And I can also say there's a dog here. Ciao doggo, say hi to the world. We want to make it let's say we want to do this a little bit faster by a weird factor, and at the same time we move it and we remove most of the events, and this should sound quite strange. So now I think you can see that there's still some there is still something which is rigid in its structure, something which is regular in its structure, which is of course the kick drum, but the glitch pattern is just going a little bit drunk here and there, and I think I kind of like it. And if we go back to the snare, so how can we make the snare a bit more interesting? I think we have a super nice dog here. But I think you don't see me. That's really sad. And why are you not able to see me? Okay, that's quite sad. But actually I'm here and there's a dog here. So how come you can't see me? That's probably because if I put this back, this is coming to cover me. So maybe I can just do this, and I would just add display capture again, just gonna so how can I move this? Like this. Here we go. Amazing. So you can see that there's a dog here playing with me. And we were saying we don't want the snare to fall all the time perfectly. Here's the dog. Yes, yeah. So we can play with the tempo. It's just moving the tempo a little bit back and forth, but always the same, making it bounce, oscillate around our fixed structure. And we can use something called nudge. If I remember correctly, nudge takes a value. The value can be patterned, but we just keep things really easy tonight, so we just say that we're gonna move it. We're gonna let the tempo nudge for the snare drum by a very little value. Of course this doesn't work. Why this doesn't work? Because probably I made something wrong, and it might be the nudge takes a pattern of double and a control pattern. Okay, correct. So it doesn't take a pattern, but it takes a control pattern, so it has to be used this way as the gain. And I think you will be able to hear something interesting. Too much. And now, let's talk about this. Too much noise. We made definitely too much noise, and there's no one here saying this to me. Only the dog told me that I was making too much noise. What does it mean? Too many things playing at the same time. It was getting too much complex. It was getting so complicated that the whole regular structure was basically going away. So there was just a bit too much of everything. So I will just take what my dear friend Marco usually says to me. He usually says something like, that's too much, you're just making too many things at the same time, just get back to where you started. And we go back to where I start, and we'll find a bit more. First of all, I want to degrade this. I want to remove some events, but I don't know what's the percentage. Just let some random number decide for me. I'm also going to reduce a little bit the volume here and here, because I want to play one more thing, which is going to be the last one that we are going to build tonight. And I think also I'm just going to remove this, and I'm going to choose the number again. How many samples do we have in the glitch folder? How many samples do we have? We've got 8 samples. So I'm just going to let this choose. And I think we've got quite interesting things. As you can see, we have been using a function to To speed it up, we have been using a function to make a shift in the metrical grid. We're using a function to remove some of the events. We're using a function to reverse the pattern. We're using a function to create a rhythmic structure. So we've been using quite many things that we were not using yesterday, and this is the result. Which is kind of like it. I kind of like it. But I want this to be a bit more. Good. I think I want my hi-hat back. Although I want it a bit slower. And I think also I want to, let's see if this works. I want to cut it a little bit. So basically, I'm just imposing a sustain that basically it's just scaling down the amplitude by it's just scaling the amplitude, and basically what happens is that it just takes the gain, it just takes the amplitude of the sample and it scales it down to 0 in 80% of the time of the sample. Ooh, I made it. Good. Still no questions? Okay. I think I like this. I might want some, but I think I might want some of this. Let's see. No, I don't want any snare. Now we are going to make some damage in this. Let's say that I want to build a super stupid structure, super stupid melodic structure. And I'm saying, okay, I want to use a very stupid sample, which is this one. So nothing particular, but I think it could be good enough. Maybe I'll find something better. Let's see. Maybe let's try a wobble. I think, yeah, I think it could be a bit better. Let's see. So how to make this a bit more interesting? Of course, I can play with notes. And what's the way to play with notes? Using a function called note. And what note takes is, of course, a pattern of notes. So in this case, for instance, this tells me take the sample as it is, transpose the sample by semitone, transpose the sample by 2 semitones, transpose the samples by 3 semitones, and this is what happens. Of course, nothing happens because it doesn't come, because the structure here comes from this pattern, which only has one. It only has one step, whereas here I've got 4 steps. I got a pattern of 4 things. But how can I make the pattern of 4 things win over this? So how can I trigger 4 sounds, and how can I make each sound being slightly higher in pitch? So we take this, and what we do, we take it out and we put it before. We take this out and we change this. Just a little trick. Now, as you can see, and as you can hear, probably, it's a bit higher, I say so, but still not that much. Can't really hear that much. So let's try to do this. Let's try to use a scale. I like minor scales. Oops. Something that doesn't work here. Okay, this is what didn't work. And let's say that I want I think I want something like this, and I want this to be a bit longer, but I want this to be a bit shorter. And I will also define some feet here, because I want to have some rest. I want this to breathe. And of course this doesn't work anymore. Up, and there's a dog here. Of course this doesn't work because I need to use this. And then I need to use this. Now, how can we make it a bit more interesting? We can basically take the same pattern and we can offset it. And we decide how much we want to offset it, and we start really easy. We just say, we don't do anything. We just take the same thing and we just replicate it. Well, of course, I mean, how can we make it a bit more interesting? We can make it this interesting. Of course this doesn't work. No, but I'm not allowed to use this. Oopsie, I'm not allowed to use this. So nothing. So I need to work my way. I need to work my way with the old structure. So let's say we want to take this and we want to take it away, and we want to make it the same way we did before. And we define a melody pattern. And we apply it here. And nothing changes as before. But let's say that now we want to create something. Perhaps we want to use something. Perhaps we want to use the same thing. but we want it in a higher pitch. So let's see. I never remember how to do this. So I want to take something like this. Let's say I want to apply the same melody. The same melody here. But I want to make it two octaves higher. And I think I should do this. No, and I think I should not do this. And let's see why. What you don't like exactly. You I think this is not the way to go. Why so? Because basically I'm taking this and I'm saying I want to take this and I want to add 14. But this doesn't work this way and I don't remember why, and I think I have to go and take a look. So how am I supposed to use this? This goes, for instance, no, but this is off and I'm interested in note. Let's see. Okay. Maybe I said bullshit. Maybe this goes inside here. So we have my pattern. We want to add 14 to the pattern, and then we want scale to take this pattern and put it in minor mode. No. Still we have a problem. And I think the problem is that this should be just one thing. Boom! We want something really it sort of reminds me a little bit of Carmen by Georges Bizet, something 20th century, yeah, or something similar. No one is saying anything about whether you like it or not. So let's say that I'm interested only in the high frequency content here. Maybe too much. And let's say that we want it a bit faster. And let's say that I want to use this even though I still have to understand exactly what it does. Basically it's squeezing everything every second cycle. So no, I think what we're gonna do. But I said that I can't use off. Okay. No, I don't mind. We're gonna use off. And we say that basically we're gonna have the same version, but it's just gonna be the same version a fifth lower. And of course this doesn't work. Because I should say, what I should say that I want whatever comes. What happens if I do this? And I think we broke it. No, we broke it. Okay, so go back. Put it back into shape. And does this work? No way, I need to close it. Okay. Reopen it. Back in shape. We also want this. And this. So I was saying I want to add one more melody, and now I'm going to use off. So I'm just going to take inspiration here, and it says I want to, in this case, the note. Okay, I see. We don't want this to happen here. We want this to happen here. So we want this, something happened. We want this to happen here. So we say, do we offset by this? Let's follow back what we were saying before. Let's take it back, and we want this. Syntactic negation. What happens if I do this? Okay, that's interesting. And what if I do this? Okay. I think now we have something. I think I sort of prefer this to happen here and this to happen as was before. And of course, this can also be a bit, but I think I like this way. and this a little bit more. And a bit more. Yeah, I think I like it. Perhaps just a little bit smoother. What did I do? What did I do? Oops. I think I broke it. And here we go again. And again, here we want to remove some. But not too much. Ideally, one also get a bit more gain. And we can also think of putting some little delay. But then, of course, it gets a little bit too much. So perhaps we can reduce the delay time. I don't remember if this is Crush or not. No, because Crush is the crusher made by Bengold. How is the big crusher? I don't remember. That means that it's time to stop because I'm worn out and yeah, I'm tired, so I don't work anymore. But as we saw, we made way many progress from yesterday. We made this way better. We are using a lot of new functions to introduce some more variability for our Alvanato pattern. We also changed the way the hi-hat is playing, a little bit more sparse and not all just constant on all steps of the cycle. And we removed the snare because yeah, I kind of sucked a little bit. And we also made a small melody which is composed of low frequency pattern, low frequency melody, sort of a bass, if we can call it this way, and also of a little arpeggiator thingy, some sort of, I don't know, reminds me of some mini moog-ish thingy. And I hope you have fun. And yeah, it's really, really dark in here. So I would say here I am again. So now you can finally see me again. And that was all for this time. And I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, you can always watch it another time. If you found this useful, just reach us out. We have a Facebook page. You can just reach us out here in the channel, and just come back here tomorrow, 8 p.m. There will not be me, there will be Pierre streaming some nice visuals because we had too much music. And I will say that's all for tonight, and I hope we made something nice. And I'm going to walk my dog. So cheers everybody.